Happy to welcome you all for this Geography Current Affairs session brought to you by Kingmakers IAS Academy. I'm Madhavi, a faculty at Kingmakers IAS Academy. We had started UPSC preliminary online program on May 6, 2020, covering general studies and CSAT. It will be a one-hour session, 2 per day, consisting of 126 hours. So this will be they'll be discussing the chapters as well as question answer sessions. It will be dealt by CSE achievers, eminent personalities, and faculties of Kingmakers IAS Academy. So this at affordable cost, and anybody interested can use this link. And now we also are planning for a mains online classes and optional online classes. We'll update you soon with the schedule and so on. Here, the scope of discussion for the geography current affairs are, it is covering June 2019 to June 2020 current affairs. So basically it is about, first, ocean atmospheric phenomena and its impact on monsoon, minerals in ocean, cyclones in 2019 to 2020, heat waves, polar vortex, time zones, Ramsar sites, the new Ramsar sites which were in news, international and national conflicts, projects, rivers and port in news, volcanic activity in 2019 to 2020, and shifting of magnetic poles. Here I'll be discussing mostly with the maps because it will be better for your diagrammatic illustration. It will help you in both prelims as well as mains, because most of the issues which are coming in the current affairs based on geography are coming in a map based questions. So two things: one, the concepts I'll be clarifying here. Next is the maps I'll be showing here that will help you in connecting the news with the map, as well as able to grab the map based questions in prelims, and also you will be able to draw it in the mains, because mains, whenever you are illustrating it with a diagram, you get more marks. So that is my motto, and that is the scope of discussion here. So we'll go deep into this current affairs of geography. First, it is about El Nino, La Nino, and its Modoki. Okay, so what is this? It is, again, I told you, it is an ocean atmospheric phenomena. So coming to this basic concepts of ocean atmospheric phenomena. So we have the ocean and the atmosphere in the top. Say for example, this is 0 degree. I see the earth in the horizontal plane. So earth is like this. Okay, earth is like this, but I'm taking the horizontal plane like 0 degree to 90 degree. Okay, so this I have made it into a straight line, 0 degree, 90 degree, and here 90 degree. So 90 degree north and 90 degree south. Here there are oceans and there are land surface also. So let's consider any ocean. Okay, so let's consider some ocean wherein 90 degree and let's see 0 degree. So 90 degree north and 0 degree, and let's have 90 degree south also. If the whole thing, if you assume the whole surface is made up of ocean alone, okay, just imagine. Okay, now in the 0 degree you have the higher amount of heat because of the sun. Between 20 degree north to 23 degree, or to tell you exactly, 23 degree, 23 and a half degree north and 23 and a half degrees south, you have the highest amount of solar insolation. You mean the sunlight, heat energy is received maximum in this area. Okay, fine. So here with the maximum energy, the surface of the ocean get warmed up very soon, and it will be hotter than the polar region. Here there are low solar insolation. So here the surface of the water remains cooler than the tropical region. So this here we have something called thermocline layer or thermohaline layer. Okay, thermohaline means, thermo means temperature, haline means salt, salinity, or what I mean is salinity. So in this, where there is more salinity, when it is warm, it gets evaporated soon, and more salinity is there in the tropical region. So more heat and more salinity is there in the tropical region, and also maximum energy is also there here in the tropical region. So there is the the line, that is the thermohaline line is like this. Okay, so thermohaline line is like this. So the water swells because of the high energy, because of the high temperature, the water swells. That is, it expands and it starts moving towards the pole. And the water here, which is denser because of the cold temperature and less salinity, but here the cold temperature makes it more denser. Okay, here it settles down and moves towards the tropical region. So there is a circulation of water from the tropical region to the polar region, and polar region to the tropical region. So this is how we call it as ocean currents. So this is the oceanic phenomena. But I call it, or I'm talking about ocean atmospheric phenomena. So in ocean atmospheric phenomena, you have the ocean as well as what is there in the atmosphere, you must know. So in ocean, I have told you, in the tropical region, that is in 0 degree to 23.5 degree. In the tropical region, it is little warmer and it is cooler in the polar regions. So in a warmer climate, in a warmer region, there will be low pressure, and in the cooler region, it will be high pressure. So in the surface area, it is low pressure and high pressure. The same thing in the atmosphere, because of high pressure, there will be subsidence of air, and in the low pressure there will be convection of air. So in the convection of air, as the air is moving up, you will have high pressure created just opposite to the surface. So in the atmosphere there will be high pressure, and in the surface it will be low pressure, and similarly in the surface with the high pressure there will be low pressure in the atmosphere. So this is what ocean atmospheric phenomena is. Okay, here with the ocean current moving like this. Okay, you also have the wind movement. Okay, wind movement, which is from the high pressure to the low pressure in the surface. But here it is from the high pressure to low pressure in the atmosphere. So this is what ocean atmospheric phenomena is. So you have to know this basic about thermohaline layer and what is ocean atmospheric phenomena. So this pressure system and the warming nature or the cooling nature of the water differs between different phenomena that I will be discussing now. Let's see where this particular phenomena is occurring. So the position, the location of this phenomena and the pressure systems. Okay, this will be differing between the phenomena that I'll be discussing. Say for example, El Nino, La Nino, Modoki and all. Okay, now we'll come to the core part of it. What is El Nino, and La Nino Modoki and El Nino Modoki? So here comes to the El Nino. So El Nino is there with the where the considering this picture is if you are not familiar with what is this picture, you have to see the latitudes. Fine, I'll again draw it in the thing. Say for example the Peru. Okay, that is South America, and you have the Australia. Australia. Usually there will be cold ocean current coming from here. But due to the El Nino, when the condition of El Nino is most it is most coming, you have this warm current which is flowing from top to bottom, that is from equator to the poles. So the warm current, which is an abnormal condition, remember El Nino is an abnormal condition. Normal condition is the cold current from pole to equator. So El Nino is the anomaly, or it is considered as an abnormal condition or an anomaly. This anomaly will exist for around 6 months, and it usually the cycle is usually 2 to 3 years, or some say it is 2 to 7 years also. So the cycle is like this. Fine. So here we have the warm current which is flowing from the equator to the poles. So in this condition, see here you have the cloud formation. So you have the cloud formation near North America, which is not usual. Usually it will be drought because of the cold water. So there is a rainfall here. So because of high rainfall here, there will be opposite condition which happens here. So here, because of the warm water, there will be low pressure. Low pressure creates convection of air. So there is a cloud formation. The cloud formation results in rainfall. And similarly, there will be opposite condition wherein here it will be the warm, warm current. So you will have cold current here. So see, there is a person who is blowing cold wind here. So cold is usually having desiccating effect. You should have learned it in Gocheng Long, which is having desiccating effect. So it creates a drought condition. So drought-like condition, and this will influence the monsoon also due when there is an El Nino phenomena which is occurring in the Pacific Ocean. So this happened in the Pacific Ocean. So Pacific Ocean, when the eastern side of the Pacific coast is having the warm current, then it is called El Nino. So whenever there is a El Nino phenomenon that is occurring in the Pacific Ocean, you have the monsoon delay or dissipated monsoon, or less severe, less than normal monsoon. So that is the case with impact of El Nino on monsoon. There is a opposite condition is La Nino. See, the person who is blowing cold is here. The rainfall is here. So this will actually accelerate, or it will enhance the monsoon. La Nino condition will enhance the monsoon. So this is about El Nino and La Nino. El Nino and La Nino, it's just the opposite of where the high pressure is, cold current is, and where is the warm current is, and where is the low pressure is. And here it is the warm current, and you have the low pressure. But in case of El Nino Modoki, the phenomena is same, but the position is different. In this case, it is happening in the same Pacific Ocean, but what happens here is, instead of in the eastern coast becoming warmer, it is the center of the Pacific Ocean which becomes warmer than the other sides. So here in El Nino Modoki, see here, the center of the ocean becomes warmer, and so there is a rainfall because of the convection due to low pressure caused by the warm water. Okay, so here we have this phenomena where here it is only one circulation, here there are two circulation. And here La Nino Modoki is same thing, but here you have the high pressure or cold temperature, and so there is a subsidence of air. So this is about El Nino and La Nino Modoki. So El Nino is usually considered as having a negative impact on the monsoon. Going to the next slide, it is about Indian Ocean Dipole. So Indian Ocean Dipole is again a recently found phenomena which is found to reduce the impact of El Nino that we found earlier. So usually we thought that El Nino was influencing monsoon in a negative manner. So we thought, okay, whenever there is an El Nino, there will be low monsoon rainfall. But what happened someday when there was an El Nino, they had a rainfall which was quite normal or quite abundant also. So then they came to find this phenomenon called Indian Ocean Dipole. What does this Indian Ocean Dipole means? Indian Ocean Dipole here, same thing, but it is happening in Indian Ocean. That's all. The El Nino and La Nino, Modoki and all happened in Pacific Ocean. Here it is happening in Indian Ocean. Here what it becomes warmer is the Arabian Sea becomes warmer during the positive phase. So there are three phases in Indian Ocean Dipole: positive phase, negative phase, and neutral phase also, but neutral phase is not mostly discussed. It is a positive phase. When the positive phase is there, the Arabian Sea becomes warmer. So when it is warmer, it has a low pressure. Okay, and this will pull the southeast trade wind further into the India. So this will help in enhancing the monsoon rainfall. So Arabian Sea becoming warmer is the positive Indian Ocean dipole, and when Arabian Sea becomes less warmer or cooler, it becomes negative Indian Ocean dipole. So positive Indian dipole will accelerate the monsoon rainfall, whereas negative ocean dipole will reduce the monsoon rainfall. And you must also know that here it is Indian Ocean dipole. Here see, it is happening. Okay, so it is happening in Indian Ocean. It also has an impact on Africa also. And because Arabian Sea is becoming warmer during positive Indian Ocean dipole, there are instances of cyclone formation also. So because of low pressure in the Arabian Sea, there are instances of formation of cyclones also because Arabian Sea becomes warmer and it becomes low pressure. It has a low pressure. Okay, so we have in acceleration of enhancement of monsoon as well as cyclone creation in the Arabian Sea because of the positive Indian Ocean dipole. And now this is a new phenomenon, but you must know just Indian Ocean only, but equatorial Indian Ocean monsoon oscillation. See here, equatorial Indian monsoon oscillation. Here see, when the west is warmer and here the east is the west is warmer, here the east is warmer, or the west is cooler. Okay, so here in this phenomena, there is an enhanced cloud formation here in the western side. Then it is called a positive. When it is in the eastern side, it is called negative. Again, it has a similar effect like a Indian Ocean dipole. So it is called as equatorial Indian Ocean monsoon oscillation. So this you have to remember. Okay, there is a new phenomenon also. So there are a number of phenomena which is discovered and found to be impacting monsoon also. So here earlier there was a statistical model. Okay, this also I wanted to tell you. Monsoon prediction was earlier based on statistical model. Then they converted into a dynamic model, and now there is an ensemble prediction method where they simulate and find the what is the combination of these oscillations and how it will impact the monsoon. Like that, they will try seeing what is the impact on monsoon. Okay. And remember one thing, in case of Indian Ocean dipole and this El Nino, La Nino, it is difference in the location of oceans. Again, we are coming to the Madden-Julian oscillation. Here it is little different. This Madden-Julian oscillation, again, it happens in the tropical Pacific Ocean. Fine. So it happens in the Pacific Ocean again. Here it is actually the band of low pressure area. The band of low pressure area which actually moves from west to east. So it is moving from west to east because of the subtropical jet stream which pulls it from west to east. So there is a cloud formation. So low pressure in the bottom which is being pulled by the subtropical jet stream. So this will bring cloud, rainfall, wind and pressure system wherever it is moving. So it is moving from west to east. When it is moving from west to east, it moves between 30° north. As I said, it is tropical. So it moves between 30° north and 30° south. And this phenomena occurs around 30 to 60 days. This you must remember. And it is intra-seasonal, within seasons, sorry. Fine. So because 30 to 60 days only. This influences again the El Nino, that is ENSO thing, and also it influences the monsoon also. How it influences monsoon? When it is staying in this phenomena also moves to the Indian Ocean also, not just in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so it is a Pacific Ocean also. So if it is, this is a South America, you have the Africa, and you have India. So it moves from west to east. So when the phenomena is present in the Pacific Ocean, so it is bad for monsoon, and when it is present in the Indian Ocean, it is good for monsoon. This you must remember. So between this 30 to 60 days, it will move between 30° north and 30° south between all the oceans, from Pacific Ocean to the all the ocean. That is, it will circle like this. So it is moved by subtropical from west to east. Remember this. See, people find it very difficult when they're not able to orient the horizontal vertical things. Here 30° north to 30° south, it's the bandwidth of this Madden-Julian oscillation, but it is moving from, it is not moving like this, but it is moving between 30° north and 30° south, from the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean and back to the Pacific Ocean. So west to east. So west to east it is moving from, when it is in the Pacific Ocean, it is bad for monsoon. When it is present in the Indian Ocean, it is good for monsoon. That's all about Madden-Julian oscillation. So simple as that. Remember it very simple. Keep it very simple. Keep your thoughts, learning, understanding very simple. It will be very easier for doing geography. And then another important thing, Pacific Decadal Oscillation was actually was in the current affairs last year, and now this year current affairs, Atlantic Meridional Oscillation was there. But these things are often repeated in the news. I'm talking about every current affairs that is related to the ocean atmospheric phenomena, so that it becomes clear, because without these there's nothing in geography current affairs. Okay, fine. So coming with the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. So this again, same similar thing happening in the Pacific Ocean, just like Indian Ocean dipole, but there are certain differences. When the western Pacific coast become cooler and eastern Pacific coast become warmer, it is called the positive phase. And the opposite is considered as the negative phase. And remember, this phase is between 20 to 30 years. Earlier I told you, in case of Madden-Julian oscillation and all, it is like 30 to 90 days, right? But in case of this El Nino and all, it stays for 6 months, but the span is around 2 to 7 years. But here, see, it is decadal oscillation. It is around 20 to 30 years. This phenomena will repeat after 20 to 30 years. So this is the phenomena. So simple as that, this is the phenomena. But the problem here, the monsoon, how the monsoon gets affected? Any idea? So how the monsoon gets affected? When the West Pacific is cooler, it is positive phase, I told you. And when this is in the same phase as the ENSO. So what is ENSO? This have to become warmer. So when this Pacific Decadal Oscillation is in positive phase and ENSO is also there, then it is a disaster for the monsoon. Okay, it is a disaster for the monsoon rainfall in India. And when it is this in the negative phase, but there is El Nino. El Nino is there, but POD is in negative phase. This will neutralize each other and the monsoon will be normal. So that is how this Pacific Decadal Oscillation and ENSO reacts together and influences the monsoon. This you must remember. See, ENSO is same. Also, positive phase of Pacific Decadal Oscillation is same, but the time gap is different for these two phenomena. When it is overlapping, it is a disaster for monsoon. When it is opposite to each other, it is neutralizing, and it will be monsoon will be normal. Then coming to this Atlantic Meridional Oscillation. This Atlantic Meridional Oscillation, you have to remember, this is now in current affairs, but it's very, very simple than any other phenomena that I have discussed earlier. Just this, the warmer current moves up from the equator to the north, and the cold water moves from surface pole to the south. So, but this phenomenon occurs around 60 to 80 years. And see the word meridional. So meridional here means only in this meridians. It is, this is the width of the circulation. This you must remember. This is the width of the circulation. Earlier we were talking about in latitudinal width, but here it is a longitudinal width. And this North Atlantic, it happens only in North Atlantic, and 60 to 80 years. So when I'm saying it is North Atlantic, it happens between 0° to 80° north. Here the diagram is different. Okay, but remember this Atlantic meridional oscillation happens between 0° to 80° north. Only North Atlantic happens between 60 to 80 years. And this actually will influence the hurricanes, the rainfall patterns, and changes in fish population. So far, the connection with the monsoon has not been discovered. It is still in progress. We will study what is the influence on the monsoon when the report comes. Then, this is entirely about the thing. So we will locate wherever the things. Here, see, Indian Ocean Dipole, you have the equino here. Pacific decadal oscillation happens here. Madden-Julian oscillation happens here. I mean, the whole span. The Atlantic meridional oscillation is here. El Nino is again here. So these are the locations of the phenomena, and as I told you about the phenomenon also. Now coming to the minerals in ocean. So minerals in ocean, there was a lot of talk about polymetallic nodules. So this polymetallic nodule, so poly means many metals clustered together, and you are able to get it in the sea. So there are nickel, many nickel, ferrous, everything clustered together as some polymetallic nodules. See here this diagram. Polymetallic nodules found in the deep oceans. It is found in deep oceans, so there are different techniques to find this deep mineral, to exploit this mineral. Here coming to this, so they can ask you basic, earlier in the many of my classes I've told you, whenever they are giving something in news, they can go back to the basics, or they can ask you about the current affairs itself in depth. So when I'm going back to the basics, when there was a news about polymetallic nodules, I'll go back to the basic, talking about what are the relief features in the ocean bottom. First it is continental shelf, then it comes the continental slope, then comes the continental rise, and then the abyssal plain. And smaller relief features like seamounts, atolls, guyotts. You have the trenches also. Trenches means things like this, trenches. Submarine canyons, here see, this is a major feature only. So these are some of the things that you have to know. So in case of our continental shelf, what are the minerals usually found there? We have the oil, natural gas, all explored actually from the continental shelf. And even going before here, we have the delta here. See, there is some delta here. So delta, what is the mineral that is found in delta? So this aspect can be helpful in your mains when they're asking about what is the resources in the ocean. So you can talk about mineral resources, you can talk about food resources, you can talk about energy resources, you can talk about all other kinds of resources, non-food resources and food resources. So this is continental shelf, like say for example in Mumbai High, we explore oil and natural gas, which is actually happening in continental shelf. And in deltaic region, you have the hydrocarbons. And in the continental slopes and in continental rise, there are cobalt clusters and all. So you get different kinds of minerals in different regions. And in abyssal plain, you get this polymetallic nodules. And even there are placer gold deposits, but the exploitation feasibility is very meager. So placer gold is not commercially exploitable from the ocean so far. I mean. Okay, so minerals in ocean, this is about this. So you have to learn about what is polymetallic nodules. If at all coming in news, do have a look at it. So what is this hydrothermal sulfides? Hydrothermal sulfide happens in the Rift Valley. What is this Rift Valley? Rift Valley happens when there is a tensional force. That is, when the plates move apart from each other, there is a tensional force which creates a fault, and there is a subsidence of the landform creating rift. So this is a Rift Valley. and this is a block mountain. So when the land falls, I mean the crust falls down, there is a valley which is created that is called Rift Valley. And the Rift Valley, there are sulfides which are hydrothermal sulfides which are formed in the Rift Valley. It is found in the Rift Valley. And there are trenches also where there are a number of organisms even find in very, very deeper places. So the trenches like Pacific Marina Trench and all, it is very, very deeper. It is the very deepest trench in the earth, but still there are some bacteria which are found, some microbes which are found in that deeper thing. So whenever they are talking about this, you must know what is a trench. Then coming to the cyclones in 2019 to 2020, which is very important. Going little basics about the cyclones, it is very important for you. So cyclones, tropical cyclones, we will talk about only tropical cyclones here, but there are two cyclones, you know, temperate cyclones and tropical cyclones. And temperate cyclones is formed by the front, while tropical cyclone is formed in the ocean due to the latent heat of condensation that is formed in the ocean because of the warm ocean. So this temperate cyclones and tropical cyclones, you must know the difference. So it is the basic NCERT content. So I'm not going into that. Now, coming to the tropical cyclones, you know, if at all there is an ocean here, you have the low pressure formed because of the warm water. Okay, so low pressure formed here. So there is a low pressure and there is a inward movement of the wind towards this low pressure. So this, I'm not giving like this straight line, but I'm giving a curved line because of the Coriolis force. Again, I'm recalling one concept. So Coriolis effect or Coriolis force, but you have to call it as Coriolis effect only, not a force. Okay, so there is a inward movement of the wind towards this low pressure. Again, it is in anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere, and it is in clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. This you also must know. Say for example, in Indian Ocean, in India, we have it low pressure formed, if at all, in Bay of Bengal. It just starts moving towards the land and it makes a landfall and creates a intense rainfall, intense wind, and various devastation, and it is called a disaster. So here, if it is formed in Arabian Sea also, it moves towards any directions because of the movement of the wind. So it takes a track. So the track is actually detected and the track will tell you where it falls and the disaster preparedness will be done accordingly. So this is about the tropical cyclone. This you must also know, there is an eye. This part which is at the center is called an eye, where it is calm. It is very calm in the eye portion. Remember, it is calm. That is, there is no movement. Nothing will happen in eye. There is only a slight subsidence of air in the eye portion. Okay, but in the other circles and all, there will be intense movement of wind. Okay, when the movement is say here, say for example, this is the land, this is the cyclone which is approaching. Okay, when it is approaching, when this part is coming, it will have the wind. Say for example, it is moving like this. When this part is coming, you don't have any air movement. Wind movement will not be there. It will be little warmer. When this part is coming, you will have the opposite wind which is blowing like this. So a difference of wind movement causes intense damage to the buildings, the trees and all. So there is a, when the wind is moving like this in for a few seconds, the wind will move like this for a few seconds, the total trees will go down. So that is how the impact of cyclones is. This you must remember, how it is very disastrous. Okay, so coming with the cyclones that happened in 2019 to 2020. Do you want me to go little basics again? Do read the NCERTs. Okay. Cyclone Pabuk in South China Sea. Okay, that is in the Gulf of Thailand. This name was named by Laos. So it is again just a current affairs. So this is the track. See here, track. Okay, so usually in the vertical diagram, the diagram of thing is, this is the horizontal diagram. When I'm talking about the vertical diagram is this, like this. The cloud formation is marked like this. So there is no cloud formation in the eye. So the wind, there is a updraft of wind and the cumulonimbus clouds is formed and there is intense rainfall because of the cumulonimbus clouds. So this is how the thing is. So the wind movement is like this in the surface. So this is the diagram of usually you have to draw for tropical cyclones. Okay, so cyclone Pabuk happened in South China Sea in the Gulf of Thailand. So this is South China Sea. Fine. So Gulf of Thailand is here, named by Laos. So this is about cyclone Pabuk. And cyclone Fani is little important. So cyclone Fani was formed in west of Sumatra. It was named by Bangladesh. And remember, cyclone Fani was the second storm to form in April. This April month is little peculiar also. That happened in Bay of Bengal and crossed the main island in 126 years. So actually it happened in Sumatra and it crossed the mainland and it impacted the Bangladesh and other regions in the northeast. I mean the West Bengal and all. So this is the track of cyclone Fani. So cyclone Fani formed in Bay of Bengal, named by Bangladesh, formed in Sumatra. Okay, it crossed the main island is the important facts about Fani. Next is cyclone Vayu. Cyclone Vayu was formed in near northern Maldives, named by India. Remember this, Vayu was named by India. Vayu was the third cyclonic tropical depression, third cyclonic storm and second very cyclonic storm of the 2019 North Indian Ocean cyclone season and the first of which to form in Arabian Sea. So this is the first of this year 2019 to be formed in Arabian Sea. So cyclone Vayu was formed in Arabian Sea while Fani was formed in Bay of Bengal. Okay, this you must remember. See the Fani here, see there is a track has been little distorted. See here it is coming like this and then it has impacted the Gujarat region. So this is again the important thing to know. So it is formed in Arabian Sea. One important thing I wanted to tell you is there are number of cyclones which have started forming in Arabian Sea, which is not the usual phenomenon. This is attributed to a climate change and emission, global warming, and it's also they are saying that the Arabian Sea is becoming warmer because of the El Nino and positive Indian Ocean dipole. This is again some of the phenomena because now many cyclones are forming in the Arabian Sea is a little abnormal because usually the Bay of Bengal, which is bit warmer than Bay of Bengal is warmer than the Arabian Sea. So usually the cyclones are formed mostly in Bay of Bengal, but now there is a lot of more than 4 or 5 cyclones in this year was formed in Arabian Sea. So this phenomenon is little abnormal. So you have to remember why Arabian Sea. There is a lot of cyclones in Arabian Sea. It is attributed to the anthropogenic emission that is resulting in global warming and in a long term climate change. And there is positive Indian Ocean dipole and El Nino Modoki condition is there and aerosol emission by the people. And also usually there is a wind shear movement. Wind shear is a vertical movement of wind which usually dissipate the cyclone. But this wind shear has reduced its strength. So there is no dissipation of the cyclone whenever it is formed in the Arabian Sea. So they are strengthening. Whenever the cyclone is formed, it is getting strengthened without the wind shear. So this is about cyclone Vayu. And next about cyclone Hika. Nice name, right? So cyclone Hika again formed in Arabian Sea. It was named by Maldives. See here, Vayu was formed in Maldives, named by India. Cyclone Hika, named by Maldives. It affected Gujarat, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. Here is the track. See here. And also you must remember, whenever there is most of the cyclone which are formed in the Arabian Sea usually impacts Yemen, Oman and all. Mostly not India, but now again India is now getting affected by the cyclone which are formed in the Arabian Sea. Again, this is again a peculiar thing. Next is cyclone Kyar, that is formed again in Arabian Sea, named by Myanmar. So Kyar is named by Myanmar. Again, see, it's something important. Strongest tropical cyclone in the Arabian Sea ever recorded, and second most intense tropical cyclone in North Indian Ocean history, only behind 1999 Odisha cyclone. So it is the strongest in Arabian Sea, second most intense after 1999 Odisha cyclone. This you must remember. And there is something again peculiar here is this cyclone here was formed. Usually, there are a lot of conditions for formation of tropical cyclone, like warmer water, warm water. There are remnant vortex of wind movement or remnant of cyclones itself. So when the first cyclone started degrading, the second cyclone will form from the remnant of these cyclones. Here in the cyclone Kyar, even before it is getting suppressed, with this remnant, the cyclone Maha was formed. So this actually is the Maha is formed from the Kyar, and these two are simultaneous cyclone is what they are calling. So these two are simultaneous cyclone they are telling. So cyclone Maha is also happened in Arabian Sea, named by Pakistan. It is extremely severe cyclonic storm. See, this is also strongest. This is also strongest. So usually when it is formed from the remnant, it usually don't get intense cyclone. But here again, it has formed into an intense cyclone again. So that is also when one peculiar thing we have to still explore what this earth is going to be. And next, there is something called cyclone Pawan. It is a distinct cyclone, but it happened in Arabian Sea, so I put here. But this only connected. These two are connected. This is different. So this cyclone Pawan formed in Arabian Sea. It is named by Sri Lanka and it affected India and Somalia. So this is the picture of Kyar and Maha. So the position of Kyar and Maha, see here. Okay. So Maha Kyar has moved. Then we come to the cyclone Amphan. Cyclone Amphan, the first super cyclonic storm to occur in Bay of Bengal. Here, Amphan is in Bay of Bengal since the 1999 Odisha cyclone. So, in case of Bay of Bengal, cyclone Amphan is the super cyclone after 1999 Odisha. In case of here, it is Kyar. Okay. In case of Arabian Sea, it is Kyar. In case of Bay of Bengal, it is Amphan. See the track of Amphan. It is very recent, no? Before Nisarga. So here it is the track is here. See here, there is something we have to note here. See, this is cone of uncertainty. Estimated tentative track. See the words. So here when the position is here, it is last known position of cyclone Amphan. See, they are saying indicative times are subject to change. See, this is a picture that I wanted to show you so that you will learn about what is the weather synopsis. So what is this cone of uncertainty? See, say for example, India is here. When there is a tropical cyclone is formed, usually the track is, say for example, this is the track. But you can't exactly tell what is the track. So what they create is a cone of uncertainty. This cone tells you the width up to which the cyclone is expected to go. It can be like this, it can go like this, or it can go like this, it can go like this, or it can go like this, like this. So this is the cone of uncertainty that is usually predicted. The people who are not only vacated in Kolkata, they are located in this region also, and even in this region also, little by. So this is how the cone of uncertainty is done. An estimated tentative track is again mapped with this cone of uncertainty. This you must remember. And there is one more phenomenon that you must remember. There is something called recurve of cyclones, which was in news in the last year because of Oki. There was a cyclone called Oki which recurved. Okay, it was going like this, but it recurved and came like this. So this is a new phenomenon. So the recurving of cyclone was very unusual. It was very uncertain. It was unpredicted. Usually the IMD will come with the track, but suddenly if it is recurving, who will know? If it is recurving like this, it is no problem. But if it is recurving like this, who will take the thing? So it is the phenomenon is happening. So recurving is one phenomenon which is very uncertain, which happened with the cyclone Moki, but not in the recent past of these cyclones and all. Now about cyclone Nisarga. Nisarga is the second pre-monsoon. Here see it is pre-monsoon. So before June it happens, pre-monsoon cyclone in Arabian Sea and is expected to hit Goa. I mean it has hit now. Okay, so this is it has hit now. So Goa, Maharashtra and Gujarat. The first storm to hit Mumbai in 129 years. Say, I said no, Arabian Sea, most of the cyclones go to the Yemen and Oman, but here it is hitting the Mumbai and it is named by Bangladesh and evolved into a severe cyclonic storm that is around 180 km per hour speed of wind. So this is the track of the Nisarga. Fine. So now coming to the next thing about heat waves. Heat waves is a thing which is not only talked in the tropical countries like India. It was talked in the. It is happened in the Italy, in France and all. So it is very unusual. France actually was affected by heat waves. You should know that. Fine. So I think in last mid of the year it was a news. So what is heat waves? So heat waves are usually impacting Rajasthan, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, even Andhra Pradesh also, because Telangana, Hyderabad especially was affected by heat waves and a lot of deaths have happened because of heat stroke, lot of things, sunstroke, I mean, dehydration, everything. And it is caused by dry northwesterly winds. So northwesterly winds. Remember in geography, you must remember whenever it is said northwesterly, the origin is northwest. So the origin is northwest. So the wind is like this, moving like this. So which wind is moving like this? Usually you know one local wind in Delhi. What is that? Loo. Okay, so Loo is a local wind, which is a hot wind, hot and dusty wind, which blows northwesterly. That you must remember. Okay, so it is caused by dry northwesterly winds, heat waves, but it's not just it is one of the causes only. Not every heat waves is caused by this. It typically occurs between March and June. I mean, end of the summer season, and in some rare cases, it may even extend till July also. The IMD has given the following criteria for heat waves. This is very important for the prelims aspect as well as mains. If at all they're asking you, it is very important. But it's only IMD definition of the international level definition. So we'll go with this national level definition. IMD says that if maximum temperature of a station reaches at least 40 degrees Celsius or more for plains, 37 degrees Celsius or more for coastal station, at least 30 degrees Celsius or more for hilly regions. So for hilly regions, even 30 degree above is hotter. And for plains, 40 degrees is also normal, but more than 40 degrees is abnormal. But in case of coastal station, 37 degrees Celsius is normal, but more than that, 37 degree and more than that, it is abnormal. So that is the criteria to measure heat waves. And heat wave will happen if at all there is a departure from normal. Say for example, if Chennai is experiencing a temperature range of say for example 25 to 36. If 36 plus 4.5 degrees Celsius becomes the temperature now, then it is considered as a heat wave. So departure from normal is 4.5 degrees Celsius to 6.4 degrees Celsius, or when actual maximum temperature is more than 45 degrees Celsius in plains only. And severe heat waves if the departure is more than 6.4 degrees Celsius or the actual maximum temperature is more than equal to 47 degrees Celsius. And this above criteria should be met at least in 2 stations and for at least 2 consecutive days. So at least 2 days, 2 stations must report this to ensure that to announce that there have been a phenomenon of heat waves formation. So this is very important. So like this, you have the criteria. Say for example, in case of cloud burst and all, there is a criteria saying that the rainfall must be between 10 centimeter, 10 centimeter, I think, 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter, and more than certain centimeter of rainfall has to be there. So there is a criteria for the declaring cloud burst. So like this, there is a criteria for declaring heat waves also. Here see heat waves most affected New Delhi, Lucknow, Ahmedabad and Hyderabad also. Hyderabad heat wave was often in news because Telangana heat waves and all. Okay, so and little bit earlier, France was affected by heat waves, Italy was affected by heat waves, that you must know. This polar vortex, most of them had a doubt, so I thought I'll do it here, and also it was there in the news also. So what is this polar vortex? Simple understanding of it will make you understand it better. Okay, see, you all know pole receives very little solar insolation, so it is very cool, and because of its cold nature, it is of high pressure. This you must remember, cold and high pressure. But this cold and high pressure is confined to this region of pole because of a strong jet stream, which is meandering wind that flows encircling the pole. When it is weakened, that is when the jet stream starts weakening, this this high pressure or cold thing comes down as a cold waves and impacts even up to the Great Lakes and even up to the Mexico of the North America. So there is when this phenomenon happens, you know, even the Great Lakes starts freezing. Okay, the Great Lakes of the five lakes in the India between the USA and Canada, no, it starts freezing cold. Okay, so like this it happens. So this is the phenomenon you just have to know. Okay, the cold air, whenever the strong jet stream starts weakening, there will be cold wave which affects the North America, Russia, Siberia and all. Okay, that is about polar vortex. Time zone of India. Our time zone now, declared time zone is 82.5 degree east. Okay, which is not passing through the mid of India, but little eastern side. 82.5 degree east is considered as the Indian Standard Meridian. This you all know. But what is the issue is, this Indian Standard Meridian is the only time line that we have in India. But the person present here and the person present here and all, okay, will experience, say for example, the person in the northeast, he will experience 4 o'clock, but the uh, but the sun would have been almost like a 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, like here in, say for example, I'm here, my friend is in Meghalaya. 4 a.m. there is no sunlight at all, but in 4 a.m. there will be more sunlight here. So this is how but now their official time opens only at 9 o'clock, just like us. But 9 o'clock will be the peak time. It will be the sun will be at the peak. So they are wasting the time. They should have started their work even at 7 o'clock itself. So just 2 hours before itself. So they are wasting the daylight hours. And this is this has made the people from these regions and various other regions to demand to go for another time zone. But going for a two time zone is very difficult for the administration and difficult for the navigation and so on and so forth. So they are now have proposed to shift this 82.5 degree east longitude to 90 degree east longitude, so that the daylight hours of these northeast people is saved. But what happened to this people? So this is just about time zone. So there is a demand for two time zones or shifting of these time zone to the north 90 degree east. Okay. So I think about time zones you can learn from the Gocheng Lam's first chapter. New Ramsar sites of India. I have two pictures for you to know what are the Ramsar sites. So in Punjab, 3 Ramsar sites were declared: Nangal, Keshapur, Bees wetland site. See here, Keshapur, Bees and Nangal. Uttar Pradesh, you have Sarsai, Nawar, Nawabganj, Samsapur, Sandibad, Parvati Agra, Samanbad. So for the students of Kingmakers, I have already shared about the details of these Ramsar sites individually. So I think that will help you. So Sarsai, Nawar, Jeel, Nawabganj, Sandibad, Samaspur, Marwadi, Samanbad. Maharashtra, you have the Namdur Madhyameshwar. So in prelims, usually the questions can be like a tabular column, where in the wildlife sanctuary they will ask you to map between the states, or any rivers that is passing through. They will ask to map the sanctuary with the rivers, or they will ask you what are the new Ramsar sites. So they can give you for three or four or five options. Then you have to understand, identify which are the Ramsar sites and which are not the Ramsar sites, because you have number of wetlands in India, but only few are considered as the Ramsar sites. Okay, so that you have to remember. So different kinds of questions you have to imagine and study. Okay, so that you'll be able to come up with the answer for any types of question. It can be a statement based question, or choosing from many, or a match based question. Okay, so I think when you understand the trend of the newspaper questions, you will also conceptualize how the questions can be asked, and you can better answer it, because even map based question can also be asked in the new Ramsar sites also. So this is how you have to conceptualize the questions. Then coming to the conflicts, very interesting one. International conflicts. What was the problem with Iran and Saudi Arabia? All know, yes. Iran and Saudi Arabia with the nuclear agreement. Iran is blamed by the USA that it is proliferating the nuclear weapons, and also there is an ideological difference as well, because USA is a supporter of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a enemy of Iran. So friend, enemy, like this. Okay, so what was the news? This Strait of Hormuz was in news. Okay, Iran was accused to block the Strait of Hormuz, but Iran refused, denied the accusation. So this Strait of Hormuz, you must remember, it is connecting Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. And what are the basin countries? It is Oman, UAE, and Iran. This you must remember, because it is very little thing. They can trick you with the question from map. So that is what I mentioned here. See, there is a Gulf of Oman, Persian Gulf here, and Arabian Sea. You have to see what are the Persian Gulf, what are the countries which is basin countries of Persian Gulf, basin countries of Gulf of Oman, basin countries of Strait of Hormuz. And what is the Strait of Hormuz? What is the strait? It is a water body which is connecting two lands. So this you must know. What is a park? I mean, isthmus, sorry. What is the isthmus? It is a narrow band of land which is connecting two waters. So these and all you must know basics. Yemen versus Saudi Arabia. So you know Saudi Arabia is bombarding Yemen with the airstrikes and all, because there is a Houthi rebels in Yemen. So here a map about Yemen. So Yemen, see here, there is the Gulf of Aden here. Bab el Mandab is again a strait. See Red Sea, Arabian Sea. There is Oman, Saudi Arabia. So these are the neighboring countries. You must remember. So Bab el Mandab, what is the basins which is covering Bab el Mandab? It is Eritrea, Djibouti, and Yemen. See the region which is occupied by the Houthis. Houthis is the rebels. It is, they are having the Sana. So they can ask you a question like this also. Cities like Sana. What is this? They can ask you a match. Okay, Sana. Say for example, Mosul. Because if at all some cities are in news, because Mosul was attacked by Islamic states and all earlier, there was a question about that. So which of the, they can ask you in a match, or which of the following cities belongs to Yemen? They can ask you like that. So Sana Aden was in news. Even this Sada was in this SADAH was in news. Okay, so this you must remember. And Mocha. See, important cities, just have a look at it, because it was occupied and then later it was released or not. So there was a problem. Okay, so here Houthis, see, and then Hadi. Hadi is the government. Legitimate government is actually legitimate. You may not think it is legitimate, but Saudi Arabia thinks so. Saudi Arabia claims Hadi government is a legitimate one, but you also have the Al Qaeda controlling certain regions here, and you also have the Islamic states. Whenever there is a crisis in the country, Islamic states comes in. So here the Islamic states are covering certain regions. So this you must remember. So this is the crisis, and Saudi Arabia, Yemen is the Houthis are supported by Iran, and Hadi government is supported by Saudi Arabia. This you must remember. And the exile government is in Saudi Arabia. That is, Hadi government is in Saudi Arabia. And Israel versus Palestine. So there is a conflict. The Jews during the World War, they came and settled in Palestine region, ex-Palestine region, and they started owning them and made a country for themselves in the Palestine region, which is a Muslim area. Israel is a Jew, and so Arab supported the Palestinians, while Israel fought with the Arabs and got back this, occupied this whole land. Now the West Bank is being occupied by the Israel, but this West Bank was actually to be given to Palestine on a two-state option. So two-state solution is the one thing which is given. So this whole territory will be divided for in Israel and Palestine, like West Bank and Gaza will be given for Palestine, while the other region can be occupied by Israel is what the solution is proposed, but still Israel is not accepting. And Jerusalem, the one which is the most disputed thing, it is a very religious land. This religious land is being claimed by all the three religions, that is Christianity, Islam, as well as Jew. So three religion has a basis in Jerusalem. So both, all the Israel people as well as Palestine people is claiming this Jerusalem. So they thought the Jerusalem will also be divided into two. But again, this is being resisted by Israel, and Israel is occupying this West Bank through their settlements. So the recently USA announced that it will shift this embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, affecting the interest of Palestine and supporting Israel. So this was again in news. See this Haifa. Haifa was also in news. I think some airport was proposed. Okay, so here Tel Aviv is the considered as the capital now, but Israel is claiming Jerusalem as the capital. This you have to know. Okay, so internationally Tel Aviv is a recognized capital, but USA and Israel wants Jerusalem as its capital, but Palestine is also having a claim over Jerusalem. This you must remember. Okay, so West Bank and Gaza. And you have Hezbollah as the rebels here, and Fatah is the legitimate government of Palestine. Okay, Hezbollah is the rebels, Fatah is the FATAH is the legitimate government of Palestine, Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay. Syrian conflict, again, map based, we will see. See here, you must know two things, many things. I'll tell you one by one. See, Syria is here. So this is a map of Syria, not go with the provinces and all. Just know what are the neighboring countries. It is Lebanon here, it is Turkey here, it is Iraq here, it is Jordan here, and it is Israel here. So these are the neighbors, and see here there is something called Golan Heights. This Golan Heights was a disputed territory between Syria and Israel. Israel had occupied this Golan Heights, and Syria is demanding Golan Heights back from Israel. See the Damascus, which is the capital, where it is located, you must know. Fine. So here again there is a Mediterranean Sea, but Mediterranean Sea, Syria does have a coastal border with Mediterranean Sea. This you must remember. See, Dead Sea is here. Sometimes they asked us, there was a question, Dead Sea, Syria. So Dead Sea is no way related to Syria. This also you must know. So like this you must know. And the Syria was occupied by Islamic states. This you all know. And there is a government, Bashar al-Assad government. Bashar government is supported by Russia, while the rebels are supported by USA. Okay, so it is a conflict, Cold War conflict happening in Syria. So Syria is in conflict, so Islamic State came in. So Islamic State is now occupying certain territories, but it has been reoccupied. but there is a problem between Syrian government and the rebel groups. This is one problem. There is another problem also, refugee problem. Refugees are going to Jordan, Turkey, Lebanon and all. So there is this problem. There is a Islamic State problem, refugee problem, problem between the government and the rebel, and there is one more problem, that is Kurdish. This Kurdish people wanted a separate state. The Kurdish region is in this region, I think. Okay, it covers Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Syria and all. So the Kurd people in this region wanted a separate country. This Kurdish actually helped in eliminating this Islamic State from this region of Syria along with USA. So USA helped the Kurdish or cooperated with Kurdish to make the Islamic State run away from the Syria. But what happened now? This Kurdish people had a problem with the Turkey because they are against the Turkey government and they wanted a completely autonomous state. So Turkey does not like Kurdish. Okay, Turkey does not like Kurdish demand. So Turkey's Kurdish demand is against the government of Turkey. So this Kurdish demand is not liked by Turkey. But USA helped the Kurdish to fight against Islamic State. So the USA had given many arms to the Kurdish. So the Turkey fears that Kurdish will use these arms used to fight the Islamic State to be used against Turkey to form their own country. So this is why the Turkey pushed to USA to not help Kurdish. So USA withdrew from helping Kurdish, so which is very disastrous, because if at all Kurdish is not being helped, the Islamic State can come again. So this is a cycle which is happening. So that you have to analyze and see. Okay, see Kurdish Syrian government forces. There is Islamic State. There is Kurdish force. There is rebel. This rebel is against the Syrian government. And Turkish-backed rebel forces, again this Turkish-backed rebel forces and Israeli-occupied Golan Heights here. So these are the number of disputes which is happening here in Syria. And Raqqa was in news. Okay, so Raqqa was in news because it was occupied by then later got back from the Islamic State. South China Sea conflict and African map. So South China Sea conflict, here it is. So China is climbing the maritime borders, international maritime borders up to this. This is the 9-dash line. It is called as 9-dash line. It is actually the self-imposed or unilateral movement of China. It is climbing all this territory. It is climbing all this territory, but it should be shared with Vietnam. It should be shared with Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan and all. But China is refusing to, and it has created a number of artificial islands. So this South China Sea is often in conflict. Okay, see this things, Scarborough Shoal, Paracel Island and Spratly Island, which was again in news. So this China's climb is against the interest of these people who are the neighbors, the maritime neighbors of China. So this South China Sea was often in conflict. So this you must remember. An African map, two things was in news. One is a Nobel Peace Prize was got by Ethiopian president or prime minister, I don't know. So there was a news about Eritrea and Ethiopia conflict because of the Nobel Peace Prize. So know where Eritrea is. So map based only I'm talking. So Ethiopia, see here, Ethiopia is not sharing the coastal border with Gulf of Aden, while Eritrea does. So you have to know where is Djibouti, Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea. So you must know the map of this Ethiopia and Eritrea. It is Africa. And there was one more news about Danakil Depression. This Danakil Depression is one of the hottest place. Okay, so it is a depression. It is 100 meters below sea level, still hot. Okay, there is some extremophile. There is one organism which is called extremophile. Okay, this microbe is considered to be present here in the extreme climate, in the hot climate, in the very 100-meter deep. So that is what the discovery is. So the Danakil Depression is here in the borders of Eritrea and Ethiopia. See here. So this is about something in news. Then coming to India-Nepal border conflict, here, simple, I'll let you know just the locations. It is again map only I want to talk. Okay, already in our institute, Adil sir has released a video about the India-Nepal border conflict. So you can watch that video. So India-Nepal border conflict has been detailed in that particular YouTube video. So you can watch this. So India-Nepal border conflict, so Limpiadura, Kalapani River, Lippu Lake Pass. Lippu Lake Pass is a tri-junction pass between India, Nepal, and China. So Lippu Lake Pass is there. Kalapani River. So this is what disputed. So where Kali River originates. So actually, in the Treaty of Sugauli, Kali River is considered as the boundary. But the people, that is India and Nepal, is conflicting where Kali River is originating, whether it is in the Kalapani region or little south or little north or little south to this. So that is what is disputed. The Nepal is climbing up to Limpiadra. So this is one problem. But this is very strategic position because through Lippu Lake Pass, we are able to access China trade for trade as well as for pilgrimage also. So this is very important. So Mansarovar, some pilgrimages, India takes this Lippu Lake Pass. It is a pass, remember. Okay, so that is the one disputed. So there are a lot of reasons. So you can watch that video, India Nepal YouTube video for more. And India-China border conflict. See this picture. These were some of the things in news. So usually, what are the things which are disputed? The Aksai Chin region, that is considered as a western sector. Then the Sikkim region, central sector, and the eastern sector is this Arunachal Pradesh. So the which was coming in news is Galvan Valley. So I'll little draw roughly here. Sorry, here. So this is the case. So this is LAC, that is line of actual controls. Galvan Valley is present here. Okay, remember this. Galvan Valley is present here. Galvan Valley. So LAC. So there is a problem of penetration of these people here, and there is something called Pangong So Lake. Pangong So Lake here again. This is being climbed by China. So Galvan Valley, Pangong So Lake, and Demchok. Demchok region was also in LAC region, so this is also being climbed by China, and China troops is entering here, so which is very creating a security problem. And then Nakula Lake was also in news. It is in Sikkim. So Nakula is here. So Nakula Lake, okay, it is in Sikkim. Okay, it is it is a pass also. Okay, so it is in Sikkim. So Nakula it was in news. And in Arunachal Pradesh, as you all know, this is a Johnson line. Johnson line. This is McMahon line. This also you must remember. Radcliffe line is between India and China. Sorry, India and Pakistan. Sorry. Radcliffe line. Okay, so Johnson line, or otherwise it is also called as McDonald line. McDonald line is climbed by China, while Johnson line is climbed by India. So here we have McMahon line, which is totally neglected by the China. So Arunachal Pradesh is being climbed by China. So this you must remember. And the next is, see the recent thing, little deeper. So this is the LAC. So in this LAC, here we have Demchok, here Pangong, Galvan River, Daulat Begoldi, Gogra. So these are all in news. So this you must remember. Okay. Then why LAC often flowers up? These are the disputed region. It is called as five-finger policy of China, where it is climbing those five-finger region. So this, what is this five-finger region? Here, see, in Ladakh, it is climbing these regions, Demchok, Pangong, so and all. Here in Himachal, it is demanding Shipkila, Kaurik, and in Uttarakhand, Barahoti and Polan Sunda in Sikkim also, where I have missed. There is nothing in this picture. But Sikkim also Nakola, as you all know. And also in Bhutan, you know Chumbi Valley or Doklam Plateau. This you must remember. Chumbi Valley or Doklam Plateau, which was in news last year. Okay, here in Arunachal, they are demanding all these regions. So Dipang Valley, Damkachu, and all. Okay, so this was all in news. So there was a transgressions by the People Liberation Army, that is the troops of China. And Doklam face off, you all know. Doklam Valley or Doklam stand of Doklam Plateau. So Doklam is a plateau, while Chumbi is a valley. It was actually here it is. See, Bhutan, here India, and here Sikkim. So in this, it is like this. Sorry, in Bhutan, not here, it is here. Bhutan, Sikkim, and here we have the Siliguri corridor. So here we have the Bangladesh. So this is Assam forest. Okay, so Bhutan here. So this is Doklam Plateau, Chumbi Valley. Okay, next was in news is Rohtang Tunnel renamed as Atal Tunnel. So what is this Rohtang Tunnel? It is a pass. Rohtang is a pass in the Panjal range. Okay, so it is in Himachal Pradesh. It connects Manali to Leh. See here, it is connecting Manali to Leh. So that was in news. And Loktak Inland Waterways Project. See, there are a number of national waterways projects that you all know. National Waterway 1 is in news often. It is called Jalmarg Vikas Project, right? Yes. So Jalmarg Vikas Project is there. So Ganga, it is a Jalmarg Vikas Project is only between Varanasi and Haldia. This you must know. But the whole thing must be from Haldia to Allahabad. National Waterway 1. And National Waterway 2 is in Brahmaputra, Dhubri to Sadia. National Waterway 3 is in West Coast Canal, Kollam to Kotarpuram. 4, it is in Godavari Krishna Canals, Kakinada to Pondicherry or Puducherry. National Waterway 5 is in Brahmani River. So it is Goenka to Talcher. And National Waterway 6 is in Barak River. It is between Lakhimpur to Banga. Okay, so Barak River is here. Fine. So this all you must know. And what about Loktak? Loktak is a lake. This you must remember in Manipur region. See here. It is in Manipur region. Okay, so Loktak Lake is known for what? Cable Lamjawa National Park and Fumdis, those floating thing, wherein you have the deers and all present. Okay, the dancing deers. Okay, so here it is about some of the lakes. Debar Lake is the largest artificial lake of India. Bular Lake is the largest freshwater lake of India. Sambar Lake is the most saline lake of India. Loktak Lake is the largest freshwater lake of northeast India. This you must remember just for the information. So Loktak Lake, there is the Inland Waterways project which is being proposed. So rivers in news. So some of the rivers which I found it in news is here. Irrawaddy River was in news. Fine. So Irrawaddy River is passing through. Which country is this? It is Myanmar. See, Mandalay is in the banks of the river Irrawaddy. Okay, Irrawaddy. Okay, so Irrawaddy River, you have the left tributary. The left tributary of Irrawaddy River is Chindwin River. Chindwin River, and the right tributary of Mitinga. So Chindwin is very important. It's a tributary of Irrawaddy River. Okay, then something very important is the Mekong River. I have given you here. Again, Mekong, there is a Mekong Ganga committee. Remember, there is a Mekong Ganga commission. Okay, MKC, that was also new. So I taught geography, the Mekong River. So Mekong River passes through sea here from China. It is passing through through Myanmar and Laos border, and in Thailand and Laos border, and in Vietnam, Cambodia, everything. Okay, so these countries are part of it, not India. But the Mekong Ganga Commission includes India. Then, so in Subansiri River, there was a bridge which is constructed, Taporija. What is Subansiri River? Where is it? In Brahmaputra. See the tributaries of Brahmaputra, just know the important ones. See Subansiri River. Okay, Jaya Barali, sorry. Then Dhansuri, Okay, you have Manas River. So these are some of the important ones. Dhansri South and Dizang. Okay, so certain important things are left over here. Just have a look at the Brahmaputra tributaries. Okay, but I'm not going deep into the Brahmaputra tributary because I think 2 years before it was asked in the prelims itself. Brahmaputra tributaries was asked in use. So asked in prelims question. So I'm not going deep into it because they may not repeat it. But Subansiri River, know that there is the Daporija bridge. Okay. Earlier, Dola Sadia Bridge was constructed, no? Like that. Now, Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project. See here, Kaleshwaram is constructed in Godavari River. So, Kaleshwaram is in Godavari River. So, a match-based question can be asked, or any type of question can be asked. So, this Kaleshwaram River project, it is India's largest multi-stage lift irrigation project. It is multi-stage because this there is a difference in the altitude. Okay, difference in the altitude between the irrigated area and the Godavari River. So there is a need for going for a lift irrigation. Okay, so 1531 kilometer is the gravity canal, 203-kilometer tunnel route. So this data is all not important. Just know it is the India's largest multi-stage lift irrigation project. And see this Godavari River, and this is Pranhita River. Okay, this river is Pranhita River and Godavari River. In the confluence, we have the Kaleshwaram project. Okay. So Barry, just have a look at it so that if at all asked, you will know. Medigada Bridge, Sripada Yelampalli Bridge. Okay. So going back to the basic about the Godavari River, see what are the tributaries of Godavari River. You have Purna River, Vardha River, Vainganga River, Indravati River in the right left tributaries, and right tributaries you have Manjira River, Manyar River. Okay, so we have Pranhita River. No? Pranhita is not here, but Pranhita is this river. Okay, you have Pranhita is also the tributary of Godavari. Okay, so in the confluence of Pranhita and Godavari only, Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project is being constructed in Telangana. Okay, so it's world's largest multi-stage, multi-purpose lift irrigation project. So here it is very important because Godavari is a little below than the Telangana, because Telangana is a plateau, it is little above than the Godavari altitude. So Godavari is little below and Telangana plateau is little above, so there is need for a lift irrigation project. Okay, it will irrigate actually 45 lakh acres of land, and drinking water requirement also will be satisfied, and industry also, and it's also having a proposal to share the water with the Maharashtra also. So Telangana and Maharashtra will get benefit from this particular thing. And also this region will have a Charpala sanctuary. Charpala sanctuary was also news connected to the Kaleshwaram, and also giant Indian squirrel. Giant Indian squirrel is the state animal of Maharashtra. So this was also in news because in the giant Indian squirrel is in Charpala sanctuary, which is in Maharashtra. So it was supposed to be affected by this Kaleshwaram, but later it was project was realigned not to affect this Charpala sanctuary and giant Indian squirrel. Then river linking projects. So interlinking projects, a lot of things is in proposal. First, it started with the Ken Betwa link. So here, see, first one is Ken Betwa link. It is the tributaries of Yamuna River. Okay, so Ken Betwa link, Narmada, Tappi, and Par. Again, this is also one link. See, Maharashtra and Gujarat is being the state region, basin states. And here Ken Betwa, it is Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. And also Daman, Ganga, and Pinchal again was in proposal. Maharashtra and Gujarat is the basin states. So Daman, Ganga and Pinjal. Okay. It is see, Daman, Ganga and Pinjal is the western flowing rivers, small rivers. Okay. This also you must know what is the river, what is the state present, and what is the project. Okay. You must remember all this. See, there is a link between Godavari and Kaveri. It starts from Inchamballi barrage to Grand Anikut. So this is a proposed interlinking project between Godavari and Kaveri. So you have Inchamballi barrage, Janampat barrage, Nagarjuna Sagar Dam, Somasila Dam, and Grand Anikut. Okay. Then one more grand river interlinking project. You all know this one, Polavaram project. Yes, Polavaram project between Godavari and Krishna. See here, Pattisima. You have Polavaram right canal. Prakasam barrage is in. See, Dholeshwaram barrage is in Godavari river, and Prakasham barrage is in Krishna river. See here. So NH65 is parallel to this Krishna river. So this is one big project. So Pattisima is a lift irrigation project which interlinks Godavari and Krishna rivers through the Polavaram right canal. So Polavaram is a canal, Pattisima is the project name. Okay, this you must remember. And farmers in West Godavari, okay, this Andhra Pradesh has earlier interlinked the Tungabhadra with the Pennar through the Kurnool Kadapa canal and the Krishna with Pennar. So this also you must know. Okay. Next is, I just wanted to show Kosi Mechi link. This was also in news. This Kosi Mechi link, which is a Kosi river, is a okay. Kosi river is a river, a tributary of Ganga. Where Mechi river is a tributary of Mahananda river. Okay, it is between Nepal and India. India, that is Bihar. Okay, so these rivers are being interlinked. So it will benefit the Bihar regions. So this Kosi Mechi river was interlinking project was also in use. Okay, then highest rainfall in India. 2019 there was a shocking news saying that Mahabaleshwar recorded the highest rainfall, that is 7,175 millimeter, more than the Mawsynram, which is usually recording highest rainfall. So it is not Mawsynram in 2019, but it is a Mahabaleshwar which recorded the highest rainfall. So next comes the Cherrapunji. So here it is the map of Mahabaleshwar and Mawsynram. Mawsynram is in Meghalaya. Mawsynram and Cherrapunji is in Meghalaya between the Garo Khasi Jaintia hills. Okay, Khasi Jaintia hills, there is a depression. So because of the funnel shaped depression, the Mawsynram receives higher rainfall. Okay, Cherrapunji is little above Mawsynram. But now it is the Mahabaleshwar which got the recorded highest rainfall. Then Vadhavan port was also in news. It is actually it is very feasible to create a port here because 18-meter draft is naturally available and 20-meter navigation channel also naturally available. So India will break into countries with top 10 container ports in the world if at all Vadhavan port is coming into force. So the largest port are usually the JNPT, Navy Mumbai port and Mundra port. Okay, so this Vadhavan port is coming little above this Navy Mumbai port because of the lot of traffic in Mumbai. So Mumbai region, you know all the traffic. So Vadhavan port is now proposed to be again the largest, one of the largest container port. Okay, just nearby JNPT. So this is the number of ports which are there. So we have 12 major ports. With the coming of Vadhavan, you will have 13. Earlier also, NIM port was proposed. You all know, right? So NIM port was proposed last year. Now this year it is Vadhavan port. This you must remember. So NIM port is in Tamil Nadu, Vadhavan port is in Maharashtra. Then volcanic activity, this is now just a tabular column, just have a look at it. Okay. So I'll pause here for you to note it down or just have a look at it. Stromboli volcano mountain, it is all erupted in 2019, 2020. So something very interesting is this one. Raikkoku in Kuril Islands of Russia, the Skilayu volcano, Hawaii, Mount Sinabung and Anak Krakatoa. This was most discussed in news. So Indonesia, Reventetower, it is in Equator, and Wakari, which means White Island, is in New Zealand, and you have the Ulawun Valley. It is a valley, not a volcano, but not a volcano mountain. It is a valley. Ulawun Valley is in Papua New Guinea. This you know, Papua New Guinea is near the Gulf of Mexico. Okay. So these are some of the volcanic activity which was erupted. So it becomes little clumsy if I pronounce. So I stop for you to take notes. Okay. Then shifting magnetic poles. So coming to the last part of this current affairs, you all know Earth acts as a bar magnet. Okay, so you have the magnetic north pole and south pole, little declination. It is called angle of declination. When this is a geographic north pole and south pole, the magnetic north pole and south pole is declined little. Okay, so this oscillation is usually considered as a Milankovitch cycle, I think. Okay, so this north pole usually shifts entirely like this and or like this. Okay, so there is a shifting of the pole. Okay, magnetic poles. Why magnetic poles are there? Magnetic poles are caused because of the movement of ferrous particles in the outer core. Outer core only is in semi-solid or semi-molten state, no? So because of the movement of the ferrous in the outer core, semi-molten conditions, the magnetism is created in the earth as a whole. So this magnetic pole usually shifting, and it is now shifting from Canada towards Russia, that is Siberia. So, but at an accelerating pace, this is where what very crucial is. It is shifting in an accelerated pace more than the predicted time. So that is why it was in use. So question and answers you can post me in the comments below. So thank you. I hope this session was useful. We'll reach you for more subject-oriented current affairs in the upcoming videos. Thank you. Have a nice day.